The life and legacies of Helen Keller. As I often say, not all who wonder are lost. In my wondering of possibilities, I have once again found ability in disability. I call this one double tragedy turned into blessings. Such is the case of the person of Helen Adams Keller. Keller was a disabled person, blind, deaf, and dumb, born on June 22, 1880, in Tuscumbia, Alabama, USA, and died on June 1, 1968, just 3 weeks shy of her 88th birthday. Despite being badly disabled, she lived out her purpose on Earth, and her legacies have continued to affect generations after generations. You can be sure she had her bitter taste of life's storms too, paltry for her gigantic spirit. When Keller was 19 months old, she contracted an unknown illness, described by doctors as an acute congestion of the stomach and the brain, which might have been as a result of scarlet fever or meningitis. This illness would later become her lifetime ticket to stardom and amazing creativity. The illness left her deaf, dumb, and blind. At that time, she was only able to communicate somewhat with Martha Washington, the 6-year-old daughter of the family cook, who understood her signs. By the age of 7, Keller had more than 60 home signs to communicate with her family. Despite being blind, deaf, and dumb, Keller had passed through many obstacles, and she learned to live with her disabilities. As the saying goes, always adapt your confession to suit your situation. She even learned how to tell which person was walking from the vibrations of their footsteps. In 1886, Keller's mother was deeply inspired by an account in Charles Dickens' American Notes of the successful education of another deaf and blind woman, Laura Bridgman. With that inspiration, Keller started school at Perkins Institute for the Blind, the school where Bridgman had been educated. The director of the school assigned a former student of the school, and Sullivan, who was also beautifully blind, to become her personal instructor. And that was the beginning of a 49-year-long relationship, during which Sullivan evolved into Keller's governess and eventually became her life companion. Then, Sullivan started teaching Keller how to communicate by spelling words into her hands, beginning with DOLL, for the doll she had brought Keller as a present. Keller was frustrated at first because she did not understand that every object had a word uniquely identifying it. Keller's breakthrough in communication came after 1 month, when she realized that the motions her teacher was making on the palm of her hand while running cool water over her other hand symbolized the idea of water. Though she was viewed as an isolated fellow, Keller was ever in touch with the outside world. She was able to enjoy music by feeling the beat, and she was able to have a strong connection with animals through sense of touch. She was delayed at picking up language, but that couldn't stop her from having a voice. She knew clearly that she was her only real limitation to having whatsoever she wanted in life, and that paid off maximally in her later years. In the course of her education, Keller attended several institutions, such as Perkins Institute for the Blind, 1888 to 1894, Cambridge School for Young Ladies, 1896 to 1900, and Radcliffe College of Harvard University. Her admirer, Mark Twain, introduced her to Henry Huddleston Rogers, who, with his wife, Abby, paid for her education. In 1904, at the age of 24, Keller graduated from Radcliffe, becoming the first deafblind person to earn a Bachelor of Arts degree. Determined to communicate with others as conventionally as possible, Keller learned to speak and spent much of her life giving speeches on different aspects and phases of her life. Helen Keller was forever thankful for the faculties and abilities that she did possess, and stated that the most productive pleasures she had were curiosity and imagination. To her, there is great joy and happiness in rendering service to others. In her words, helping your fellow men is one's only excuse for being in this world, and in the doing of things to help one's fellow lay the secret to lasting happiness. True to her life maxim, Helen Keller traveled worldwide raising funds for the welfare of her fellow blind people. In 1915, Keller and George A. Kessler founded the Helen Keller International, an organization devoted to research in vision, health, and nutrition. In 1920, she helped to found the American Civil Liberties Union. Helen Keller was also an active politician. She met with every U.S. president of her time, From Grover Cleveland to Lyndon B. Johnson, during her lifetime, she became friends with many famous figures, including Alexander Graham Bell, Charlie Chaplin, and Mark Twain. By every means, Keller was considered a suffragette, a pacifist, a radical, a socialist, and a birth control supporter. She was also a member of the Socialist Party and actively campaigned and wrote in support of the working class. Many of her speeches and writings were about women's right to vote and the impacts of war. She had speech therapy to have her voice heard better by the public. Helen Keller wrote extensively. She had a total of 12 published books, including several articles. Her first piece was The Frost King, which she wrote at the age of 11. By age 22, she had already published her autobiography captioned, The Story of My Life. Can you beat that? She also wrote The World I Live In, giving her readers an avid insight into how she felt about the world. Out of the Dark was her series of essays on socialism. On September 14, 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson awarded Keller the Presidential Medal of Freedom, one of the two highest honors in the United States. In 1965, she was elected to the National Women's Hall of Fame at the New York World's Fair. Keller has been severally portrayed in many documentaries and movies. In 1968, she suffered a series of strokes and died in her sleep on June 1, 1968, a few weeks short of her 88th birthday. And her birthplace in West Tuscumbia, Alabama, is now a museum. Her birthday is being commemorated as Helen Keller's Day in the United States. Not only that, it was recognized at the federal level with the presidential proclamation of President Jimmy Carter. Helen Keller is truly an evidence of ability and disability. Whether you are able or disabled, always remember that as long as you are breathing, you have the power to make a difference in the world. You are possible. And even if you're tempted to forget, please remember my lady, H.K. Helen Keller. Let this story inspire you to find your path in life. Thanks for watching. Please do like and subscribe for more celebrity insight.